Hi, this is Paul Neale at Penn Productions, and I'm just going to do a quick tutorial here on how to create complex shapes. This is a profile of a piece of 1" by 1" aluminum tubing for building frameworks and whatnot. It's designed with channels so pieces can be bolted in and slid in with whatnot. And I needed one of these to do a design up that I'm currently working on. Thought it'd make a good opportunity for a quick tutorial. I often see people trying to build this stuff in very, very difficult ways, trying to trace out a shape like this, for instance, all the way around with splines and trying to make it accurate. And there's some easy ways to doing it and working on it quickly. First off, I'm just going to start with 1" by 1" square. So I've got something to start with that I know is the size that I want. Looks like I managed to hit the 1" square there already. So I'm just going to copy that down, and there's my square that I'll be working within and getting that shape right. Now what I can do is I can work on multiple pieces of this and then just copy them around, or single pieces and copy it around, so that it's all just mirrorable. It's all exactly the same from one side to another. So this should be pretty easy if I start with a shape like this and then start cutting pieces out of it and the like. I have the pivot in the middle now. This is why I've started with this. I should easily be able to work from here. So what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to just grab another rectangle, and I'm going to drag it and drop it right about there. Go back to my original, and I'm going to collapse that down to an editable spline, and I'm going to then attach it in. And what we can do is we can use these Boolean operations. I want to grab the original, and I'm going to say Boolean. I want to Boolean out, and you can see that it adds it in there. I want to try it again. You can Boolean it, and it cuts it off. So you can actually just sort of use other spline shapes now to cut pieces in and out here. So I'm just going to grab another rectangle and just butt it right up against that, like there. Now this should be a square, so I could have started with square and put the pivot in the middle as well. But I want to see if I can do this entirely with sort of this method here. So I'm going to again attach that together, and then again back into my shape or spline level, and we're just going to say Boolean. I'm just going to Boolean that out of there. And then we could even think about another one. So let's go and do another rectangle, and I'm going to drop that in exactly like that. And again, I'm just going to say attach them together, splines again, nibble that piece out. Now it's going to be really easy to shape and form some of this. You'll see how I do that in a minute. But for now, let's cut this across here maybe, or start getting this other piece in and get this working here. So I'm going to drop in a couple of vertices. So vertex mode, we're going to say refine. I'm going to drop in a vertice right there and a vertice right about there. And one of the things I always do is make sure that all my vertices actually are set to corner to start with. So everything should just be on corner, and you leave it on corner even if you need rounded corners later. We're going to do that later as we start working with it. So I want to drop that piece in there, and then I want to take another rectangle here. So let's grab a rectangle, and I should be able to rotate this now the correct amount. Angle snap on, and just rotate it and drop that in place. And we'll put that in there. Maybe something like that. And I'll just adjust that one down, the width. And that looks pretty good there. So let's do the same thing again. Let's go back to the original always, because our pivot's in the middle here. And I'm going to always be attaching pieces on. So again, attach to the spline level. And this time I don't want to actually cut this out. I want to find the Boolean operation that attaches it into it and puts it into the place here. So that's starting to look pretty good there, having that down into place. Now you might ask then, how do you get all the corners round? Well, if you grab a corner and you go down to the chamfer. You can chamfer them, or better yet, if you go to your fillet and you just round it into place. And there you go, we've got that one there. These two and those two should be exactly the same. We can easily round those into place and make sure they're looking pretty good and starting to look like the shape and form that we're after. So these ones might be a bit trickier because of the way I built it, and I'm wondering if I actually had carried the triangle into here that I could have chamfered the round into it and got it to look right. So maybe I'll even continue this line up and see if I can continue back up into this corner here. It might have been the better solution. We'll keep going from here then. So again, I'm going to go grab another rectangle, and this one I'm not sure of the right size, but I'm going to align it up to our other. So I just use the Alt-A and set align pivot to pivot so I know it's dead center again. And I'm just going to take a look at the size and maybe something. I have the feeling that that might be right. It seems to be the square and in the middle. I'll just realign it just to make sure it's right on. There we go. Okay, it's definitely right on. So now we've got some of this shape here going. Now what I'm going to do before I go and Boolean this in is I want to actually have a section that I can cut out that is a mirrorable, flippable piece right here. So I need to make sure there's vertices in the right spots first, because it's going to be easy to do right now than it would be after the fact, because I'd lose my center points. So with it as it is now, if I grab these and divide and use my divide tool, I'm going to drop vertices, and I know they sit right on the center lines. So with those sitting on the center lines, it'll be easy to be able to cut this piece off once I have all the pieces in there. So let's also try this. Let's go and grab maybe first. Let's see if we can actually put the circle in first or after I put this together. So I'm going to grab my original piece again and attach that in. And let's grab this piece again, and we want to build this off. So let's see what is the best way. That looks perfect. It's exactly what we're looking for. I'll round these off later once I've got some more of this done and whatnot on the shape. So let's add a circle to the center then. Again, I'm going to line it to it so I know it's dead center. And let's just adjust our size. And I might need to go in and actually adjust the sensitivity of my, because I'm working, this is actually a 1 inch. I'm not working I'm working to imperial here, not to metric. So it's a bit of a pain. I much prefer metric, but when I'm building stuff like this, everything's done in inches still this part of the world. So now what we can do is we can consider attaching this in, but let's get these around corners in. And again, I'm just going to go with a rectangle. I'm just kind of guessing at it for now. And one of the things is just take the corner radius up, and you can see that I can adjust the corner radius to actually have a nice radius to it. Now again, I don't think I've got the sensitivity in my unit set up here, so I could go to hundredths and it'll probably be a little bit better. It might still be a little touchy. Yeah, it might be. So I'm actually going to turn that off, working this small, and I'm going to just try generic units and see if that gets me. It might not be any better, but it might be easier to find the value that I want. Right there, probably looks good. And I'm going to rotate that again 45 degrees, and let's change the length. That's the So I'm not really concerned about this other side, because again, I want to cut this in half and cut this off, but we could actually line this up and try and nail it exactly where it needs to be. That probably looks pretty good there. And again, with this, we have our top and our bottom, our top and side vertice already, but we want to make sure that we get this piece in here and cut into the shape, and see if we can get this cut into it. So the other thing we might want is, again, center lines. Oh, we don't need center lines in that one. We can cut that off when we get there. So let's attach this one in. So attach that on. And again, I'm just going to go grab that piece and see what happens when I do a Boolean. And sometimes you may even find it doesn't want a Boolean because they're overlapping in ways that may not work. Now, I've also found that sometimes going the opposite way. Looks like it's even complaining to me that way. Yeah, it doesn't want to do it now. Let's try this. Get back out of there, back into it. No, doesn't want to do it. I think the end piece here might be confusing it. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to grab the two sides, probably because it's sticking out the way it's sticking out, overlapping of it. It might be confusing it a bit. I'm just going to get rid of some of this, and I'm going to grab all of these verts. Let's grab these two and just put them on corner again. I'm just going to delete those and see if this will work better. No, it doesn't want to go. Let's try that the other way. No, it doesn't want to go for some reason. So let's see if we can force this to work. I've seen this sort of problem before, but I can usually get it to happen at some point. But right now it doesn't seem to want to go into the Boolean mode with that piece selected. Only when I'm the other way, and then it doesn't want to actually Boolean it together for some reason. And it's probably because of that. I just realized you can see that the it's overlapping. The shape isn't, it's very confusing for it. It's actually going back over itself. So let's try doing, a weld and just weld these together and get rid of all that. And I bet you that'll be what it is now. It'll probably work just fine. There we go. Perfect. So now we've got a shape inside there. We can go back to our outer shape, and I can attach the inner shape. And you can see that I've got all of this starting to work and looking the way I expect. I'm going to go back to my segments, grab those, delete them, grab those, delete them. And you can see now I have a pretty good representation of it. Grab these two. Now again, best to go to a corner before you do this next operation. So I'm going to go to corner, and then I'm going to go ahead and fillet that round. So it rounds it off. Let's see what these look like. Again, I'm going to grab all those, and I'm going to corner them right up before I go and do the fillet operation. I'm going to do the first two inside and see what I get. So fillet and round that out, and then try these two and round that out. And I'm guessing I could probably just go ahead and weld those and weld those. And that's getting pretty small and refined. So here's my shape at this point. And so if I do an extrude on that, extrude modifier, you can see we're starting to get that shape. Now we want to make sure it's inside right and not inside out. And so I'm just going to turn on back face cull and just see which way it's going. So it looks like it's going the right sort of way here. And it's got a nice shape to it, but of course it's not closed, and it's not going to cap off the ends because it's not a closed shape. But I need to flip it over a couple of times anyways and then weld it together. I'm just going to leave the extrude modifier on top while I do that. I'm just going to say front again. Whoops, missing my hotkeys. And now we're going to mirror it over. Now you can't use symmetry modifier. Symmetry will turn the mesh, the model to a mesh. We want to keep it as a spline. So what I'm going to use is the mirror modifier. And there's the mirror modifier. And I want to say copy and flip it over that way. And then I want to say just copy and paste this. And change the axis so that I have the entire shape done. So you can see now I have the entire shape done, but you can see it's all kind of freaking out when we're showing the end result. And that's because there's unwelded vertices. It's still not a closed shape. The mirror flipped it over, but it doesn't weld anything together like the symmetry modifier does. So an edit spline modifier, and I'll grab the vertices that need to be welded. So that'll be all of these. And you can see they're way too close the weld threshold, because this is a pretty small model. I'm going to call it 0, 1 and try that. And now I should have a shape that closes itself off and is built the way you'd expect it to be built. So there's a nice representation of that model, just using Boolean operations in splines instead of trying to guess all your corners. You get nice, clean, smooth corners out of it. Hope you enjoyed it.